Hello, everyone. This is Red Alert Media, and I am DJ Sully D. And today we're going to be ranking Star Wars movies. And we're going to start off our countdown at number 11 with The Phantom Menace. Of course, this is going to be episode 1. It's going to be the fourth movie that's actually going to be made. It starts the entire Skywalker saga by introducing us to Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi Council, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, and the rest of the group. Thought it was a really good first edition, although it did disappoint quite a few people. At number 10, this is going to be Solo, a Star Wars story. I really liked the background they came up with and the story for Han Solo. I thought there were a couple cheesy things here and there. I would have preferred not to have seen Darth Maul in this movie. I did like almost all the casting. I thought the cast worked pretty well together. Alden Ehrenreich did a great job along with Emilia Clarke. It was very gritty and very Godfatherish, and I really appreciated this movie for what it was. One of the other issues, of course, it felt like two movies sometimes, where directors Lord Miller left the movie and Ron Howard came in to finish it. It just seemed like it took a little away from the movie. At number 9 is Rise of Skywalker. I think this is probably the hardest of the movies for me to place because it is just out. I really did like this movie, although I did have several problems with it, and it did have some issues, especially with the whole Palpatine story and with a lot of these new Force powers that they have come up with. I love the acting, though. I love Daisy Ridley and her character as Rey in this movie. I thought her acting was tenfold better. Also, they did a lot better with John Boyega's character of Finn. And I also liked Poe in this as well. The humor in this movie was also very good, and I appreciated the music as well. The soundtrack was maybe one of John Williams' best. Coming in at number 8 is Attack of the Clones. This is a movie that, for the most part, people rank very lowly. I tend to rank it a little bit higher than The Phantom Menace, and that's basically because we got to see Anakin Skywalker all grown up. We got to see Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got to see Master Yoda fight Count Dooku. Near the end of the movie, we got that huge Jedi battle with the droids. We got some back lore, finding out which Jedi Masters had trained which Padawans. I really enjoyed that. I love the lore of Star Wars. And so, it's really easy for me to choose this at number 8 over The Phantom Menace and Rise of Skywalker. At number 7 is The Last Jedi. This movie has been more controversial than almost any other on the countdown, with the possible exception now of Rise of Skywalker. I really enjoyed this movie in the theater. It's one of the few that I really had emotions during the whole movie, and at the end, stuff really got to me, and that normally doesn't happen in movies. I really did like this movie. I liked some of the choices. I thought Rian Johnson really tried to shake things up a little bit, and a lot of people don't like it, but I really did like it. I thought a couple things that sort of stood out to me was, of course, the whole idea of killing Snoke, but I thought that was a great idea. I loved how they did it. I really liked basically what they did with Luke Skywalker. I know a lot of people didn't like Grouchy Luke. I was okay with him, and I know there were a ton of people out there who wanted Luke Skywalker just to open up a can of whoop butt on everybody. Well, that didn't happen. And when I really sat down and got to thinking about it, and what a lot of people were wanting. They wanted some kind of showdown with Kylo Ren. They wanted some kind of showdown with Supreme Leader Snoke. But most of them, when you hear them talk about it, that battle is going to end in some type of defeat for Luke Skywalker. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think most people would have been very upset if Kylo Ren would have struck down Luke Skywalker, or Supreme Leader Snoke would have killed Luke Skywalker. I know the way they ending the movie with Luke astral projecting across the galaxy movie and basically fighting Kylo Ren and then dying because of basically his overexertion in the Force, he still died a hero. He still was Luke Skywalker. He wasn't defeated. That's why I think I really ended up liking this point much better in The Last Jedi than most people. I thought it would have been silly if Kylo Ren or Snoke, especially Kylo Ren, would have defeated Luke Skywalker. No one would have accepted that. So that is number 7, The Last Jedi. And coming in at number 6 is The Empire Strikes Back. Of course, this is the movie that most people will identify as their top Star Wars movie of all time. I never really liked it as much as most of the other people. I was expecting a little more action. I did like several things from this. Of course, we got the whole Luke, I am your father type deal. And so, along with that, it was a fun movie. We got to see Luke train with Master Yoda. We got to see Lando Calrissian introduced, which I always enjoy Lando's character. And, I think it was a very good movie. When you get into my top 5 or 6 movies here, they're all so close. It's just a matter of your basic preference. And to me, The Empire Strikes Back is number 6. Coming in at number 5 is The Force Awakens. It was really hard for me to decide between The Force Awakens and The Empire Strikes Back for number 5 and 6 here. So I really took the newer of the two. I really liked some of the new cast in The Force Awakens. I really liked how it opened the new trilogy story. There were some very good things in this movie. I know a lot of people are going to down this movie because I think it's a rehash of A New Hope, but I thought there were some very good things in here. I really like Rey as a character. I really like John Boyega as a character. Poe is sort of going to have to grow on me a little bit more, and then of course we have all of our cast coming back, especially Leia and Han. Although of course we don't get to see Luke Skywalker till the end. And that is probably the biggest weakness of The Force Awakens. And of the entire sequel trilogy, not having those 3 on screen, Luke, Leia, and Han, I think is one of the big weaknesses of it. But I am going to choose to bring this movie, The Force Awakens, in at number 5 on my list of Star Wars movies. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Revenge of the Sith. This is by far my favorite of the prequels, and there are several reasons why. It has some of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. Of course, when we have Chancellor Palpatine against the Jedi Masters who come in to arrest him, and he just absolutely whoops their rear ends. It is one of the great scenes, I think, in Star Wars. I really appreciated it. I know they had to film Palpatine in certain ways and with stunt double because he was older. Ian McDiarmid was older, and he was sort of limited in what he could do at the time. But I really loved that scene. You also get probably my favorite lightsaber duel in all of Star Wars, and of course that is Anakin versus Obi-Wan. I've been looking forward to this for the entire prequel trilogy, and when it finally came, it was outstanding. And then, to add to all that, you add the lightsaber battle between Palpatine and Master Yoda, something we all wanted to see also the entire trilogy, and we finally got it. And we were all disappointed when Master Yoda lost to the Emperor, but of course that was one of those things pretty much everyone knew. I know a lot of people, this is a very disappointing movie for them because of the way Padme is going to die and basically the way Anakin turns to the dark side. But, it always worked for me. I wasn't expecting something too awful deep for a Star Wars movie when it came to those explanations. And then just the closing, breaking up the twins and sending them to different areas, I thought was really cool in this movie. So, number 4, Revenge of the Sith. And now we're down to number 3 on the list of all-time Star Wars movies. And this is going to go to Rogue One. I really liked Rogue One. This is very close to my top two, probably closer than I would have wanted when I was originally thinking about my list. I really liked what Rogue One was. I was wanting a war movie. That's what I've always thought Star Wars basically is war. If you want me to like a Star Wars movie, you need several things. You need space battles, you need war, you need Jedi, and you need the Force. And the only reason this has not crept into first or second is it sort of lacks the Force, but then, of course, near the end, we get Darth Vader, and that sort of takes care of the Jedi and the Force part. But this was a great war movie. I thought the plot was very tight. What they ended up doing with it, thought pretty much all the characters were portrayed really well. I liked the background of the Death Star. The thing I really liked and appreciated about this movie is I really feel like Star Wars needs to be on the cusp of new technology. If you look at everything early on with A New Hope and even the sequel trilogy, they were really putting forth effort to advance the technology. And so one of the reasons I really liked this was the swing they took. They took a huge swing at recreating Tarkin digitally, and I thought they hit a home run with Tarkin. I thought his character was great. I've heard several people complain about it, that it took them out of the movie, but I don't even know how many fans that are friends of mine that we were actually in the movie and they didn't actually know that Tarkin wasn't still alive. So that says to me everything you need to know about that technology. Now, they swung for the fences and did really well on Tarkin. I'm not sure what happened to the CGI with Princess Leia a little bit later, but it wasn't near as good. The other thing that I really appreciate this movie for is we knew they all had to die. And a lot of people were questioning whether Disney would actually let that happen. And when at the end, all of those main characters, all of Rogue One is going to die, I could have stood up and applauded Disney for allowing that to happen because we all knew that's what had to happen in this movie. So good for Disney, good for Rogue One, and they are number 3 on my list of Star Wars movies. And coming in at number 2, we have Star Wars A New Hope. Of course, this was the first film in the Star Wars universe, and as far as I'm concerned, it stands at number 2. It's really a hard choice for me between 1 and 2 on my countdown here. I really like A New Hope. I really like the universe that it sets up. It's a universe that I think filmmakers, especially from something like the sequel trilogy, really need to respect more. Something that worked. Why do they want to change it? Looking at the New Hope, of course, we get Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, all these great Star Wars characters. We get Luke blowing up the Death Star, using the Force. Remember what I said back in Rogue One. For me, Star Wars is space battles, war, Jedi, and lightsabers. And basically you get a little bit of all that in A New Hope, and it's spread out really well. I thought the characters were well developed. I don't really have any negatives on this film. Now, one of the big things I like about this film is I really am big into Star Wars pushing technology forward, and no one can deny how far Star Wars A New Hope pushed technology forward in the late 1970s. They had to invent ways to shoot movies so that Star Wars would actually work. And I think that's something else that a lot of new Star Wars writers and directors and producers need to learn. Let's push the medium forward. Of course, you do look at it today, and of course the special effects are outdated. But you think about in the late 1970s, how awesome were these special effects? And I do appreciate that. And it still, to me, stands as my number 2 all-time Star Wars movie. So that brings us down to our number 1 Star Wars movie of all time, and that is Return of the Jedi. This is going to be the close of the original trilogy, closing out the story of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and the Emperor. And I really big fan of this movie. I talk in a couple other videos about what I like in Star Wars: actual space battles, war, Jedi, and the Force. And my goodness, this movie has all of those in abundance. It's really, I think, a nice Star Wars movie. It is the one that I will pop in whenever I want to put some type of movie on. I just want to watch this movie over and over and over again. And that is part of the reason I have it at number one. Of course, one of the big complaints in this movie is the Ewoks. I personally love the Ewoks. I really think it is something unique about the movie, and of course, something that I really have come to appreciate over the years. Along with the Ewoks, of course, we get to see Jabba the Hutt and Jabba's palace, and we get to see how Han Solo is going to be rescued, and I loved all the visuals in this movie, all the special effects. Industrial Light and Magic was at it again, and just swinging for fences and hitting home run after home run. For the most part, you probably have one of the greatest space battles, if not the greatest space battle in Star Wars history, and that, of course, is the Battle of the Death Star to destroy the Death Star. And, of course, Admiral Akbar is one of our sort of cult classic heroes from this episode of Star Wars. We also get the duel that everything's been building up to between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. And, it's going to be what a lot of people consider a great duel. I've never really been the biggest fan of this duel, actually, but it is a very enjoyable fight between the two, and I really do sort of enjoy everything here. I really like the ending where they brought in the Force Ghosts. The big part that I like was showing all the celebration around the galaxy, the party the Ewoks were having. I really appreciated that and liked it. I thought it was very Star Warsy, and it's just something that don't hate on it. Just give into it and love it. It is such a great movie. The movie I prefer over all other Star Wars movies. So number one is Return of the Jedi. Hey, Star Wars fans! I hope you've enjoyed our countdown of all of the main Star Wars movies from worst to first. Let me know how you would rate the Star Wars movies by leaving us a comment below. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Good day and goodbye.